everybody, and welcome to the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on bogradio.fm. We have a very special guest on the show today, a comedy veteran that I had the privilege of meeting at the LOL CCA conference in Atlanta, Georgia. This comic has been doing comedy, and he's won several comedy awards. The Kingdom Image Awards, Comedian of the Year in 2022, and the ChurchStars Network Comedian of the Year in 2019. He's won many comedy competitions throughout the United States. He's worked with people like Sheryl Underwood, Tony Rock, Griff, Bob Smiley, Robert G. Lee, Chonda Pierce, D.L. Hughley, Donnel Rawlins, Michael Colyer, Tony Roberts, and Cedric the Entertainer, just to name a few. I could go on. Ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, please welcome the very funny Demont Cherry. What's up, Demont?
What's going on, people, man? Look, I wore my hat trying to be like you, man. I seen you in your hat all week last week. When I seen you in that cowboy hat and them flip flops, I about lost it. So I decided to wear my flip flops and my cowboy hat. And here you are, clean headed tonight. What's going on, Mr. Brown?
Hey, what's going on, Demont? What's going on, man? I gotta represent the slick heads today, man. But yeah, normally I got my cowboy hat. I'm rocking it, man. But you look good, man.
I'm trying to get used to, man. I'm about to be in Tampa on the 22nd for all Greek show, but the night before they're having a soul concert with one of the infamous soul singers, and he told everybody to bring his hat. So I'm trying to get it ready for June 21st.
Okay. Well, you look good. That's a good fit right there, dude. You ought to stick with that look too. I like it.
Well, I'm gonna take it from you then.
Yeah, man, that's a great look, bro. So we met at the LOL CCA at McDonough, Georgia.
Yes, sir.
Or Atlanta, outskirts of Atlanta, and it was a great coming together of two comedy entities. One where most of the Christian white comedians attended CCA, and it wasn't planned, it just happened to be that way. And a lot of the black Christian comedians went to LOL GCA. Roxanne David, the president of LOL GCA, got with David Pendleton, the president of CCA, and said, hey, let's just make this one big happy family, which is what they did. First time we'd ever done that, and it was a great conference. Tell us a little bit about the conference, because you were one of the main participants.
Amazing. I mean, it was as far as being like on the board or whatever, it was different as we was planning it, but to actually see it all fold into motion was a beautiful thing, man. It was just, I mean, it was, I can't say nothing. The only word I can use is amazing and unifying. That's all I can really say about it. It was, I mean, all the session leaders were great. I mean, all the comedy shows we had was great. All the comedians came and did their thing. And to see a room full of 100, I think it was like 104 Christian comedians, or clean comedy comedians in one room together. Yeah, that was totally amazing, man.
It was totally amazing. And then on the first night, we had a packed house of about, I want to say about 300 people were in there. Am I right or wrong on that? I think it was around about that many.
Yeah, and I think they said 350, but dude, no matter what, that was just a children's church.
Yeah, that was just a children's church, dude. And I'll tell you, it was you, Felicia Frazier, Willie Brown, I think Rhonda Corey, and then
Dan Streetblow.
Yeah. And so you guys performed and killed. You guys killed up there. It was a packed house. And we had a great time. It was a 3-day event there. What was your takeaway from the conference, Demont?
My takeaway from the conference is that if any comedian that was there didn't learn anything, then I don't know what you was doing. I learned something. I mean, I've been going since 2013. I learned something different every year. Like I said, I took away more than anything. I took away the unity and how we all just came together, man. That was just powerful. Then of course the anointing when they anointed the comedians at the end, to go out and to serve the world with our comedy and keep it clean. That was great, man. And man, when my man JT Clark did his testimony on forgiveness.
Yeah.
That was powerful.
It was very powerful, and it's like a lot of times we walk around mad at people, bro, and it's like it's unresolved stuff. Like it's just like hanging out there in the air.
Right.
It's like if you ever stop and think about it, how many people are you really angry with right now in total unforgiveness mode, and you just moving on with your life because
And you really don't know, and you really don't even know why you're mad at them. It's probably just one of the most stupidest reasons why you might be mad at somebody or got an issue with somebody that easily can be resolved, but
yeah, you got to be willing to first of all, deal with it. It's like, okay, well, I'm never going to see them again, and I hope I don't.
right,
Right?
right,
You know what I'm saying? And that's like, wait a minute, hold on. You need to pray that you'll
right,
see him again, because you're walking around with that unforgiveness. Because how about this, Demond? It's one thing if you go, you know what? Okay, I forgive him. I'm gonna let it go. It's a totally different matter when they're in front of you.
right,
That's when you really find out if you forgave them.
right,
And you can't fool God. You can't play with God. God, I forgive him. I forgive him. And that's when God will get you. That's when God will get you.
right,
Right out of nowhere, you run into him at the 7-Eleven,
right,
with Walmart, or wherever it is, or at a conference.
right.
Because we got
And
people in the faith. Man, I got to get your response to this because there are comedian beefs out there, as we all know. But
Columbus, Ohio is full of them.
but
We recently had a beef in Columbus. The comics they took the beef to a boxing ring. They put a boxing ring in the club and boxed it out in the club. I mean, this happened a couple weeks ago.
are you serious?
Yeah, it's on Facebook. It's on Facebook.
Okay. And are they secular or Christian comics?
It was secular. They're secular comics.
Now, see, there it is right there. But we got beefs going on in the Christian world
Oh yeah,
with comics. You know what I'm saying? And we go around doing our little Christian clean comedy, everything, and got a beef with somebody
right,
or several people. And so no, that's a real thing, man. I mean, you can't, and then all of a sudden you got to get up there and comedy. Your comedy is not going to go to the next level until you resolve that thing.
right. And I
You
can't, I
know,
can't have issues like it. Not so much beef, but like seeing other comedians like rise above where I was trying to be and watching them get their thing until I prayed on it and like God, whatever's gonna be mine is gonna be mine. That's when I really learned to walk my lane instead
yeah.
of trying to walk my lane and have a foot in somebody else's lane. And
Now, Gordon,
that totally changed my comedy too when I had that prayer.
hey, well, check this out, Demond. That you remember Gordon Douglas? He spoke,
Right,
and he said something that I thought was very strong for comedians. That you said like get mad at other comedians because they got a special, you didn't get a special.
right,
How did so and so get on that platform and I don't get on that platform? And Gordon Douglas said the first thing you need to do is get an act.
right,
So you understand what I'm saying? Is like a lot of people are beefing and complaining. You don't have 60 minutes of good stuff.
right,
You got 15 good minutes, which is only going to get you but so far.
right,
And you might even be funnier than the person that's getting on those stages, but they have an act.
right. And
And
then
so,
you got go ahead.
so you just got to think about the big perspective. It's like, why are you really mad?
Right,
What are you upset about? First of all, that's your brother in Christ up there or sister in Christ up there that's making, moves in the business and entertainment. You ought to be praying for them and applauding them and going, hey, cheering them on. But no, no,
right,
no, no, no. You're back behind closed doors saying, how did so and so get that? I'm funnier than her. I'm
right.
funnier than him. And it happens in the Christian comedy world. And that's also a part of unforgiveness. Hey, yo, man, go get an act, man.
Right.
You know what I
The
mean?
the biggest beef I see comedians having now is that, like you said, you got comedians that got a 5-10 minute, they got five or 10 good minutes, and just because they're closing, they're the last act on a on the open mic or something, they consider themselves a headliner just because they went last. So that's like when I see this stuff on Facebook, I see that more on Facebook than anything. I'm headlining this show, dude. You just closing out the show, man. Everybody's doing 10 minutes. You closing out the show.
And the hardest thing is for, a comedian to go up there and do 45 minutes. 45 minutes of good stuff.
Right.
Don't fill the air. 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
You got to pay your dues in this business, Damon, to get to that level.
Oh, yes, sir.
You got to pay your dues, man. It's just not something that just comes out here. So when you see someone, let's say, do a dry bar comedy, I don't know if you've ever, you should do a dry bar special.
Man,
But when you,
that's one of the hardest things to get on, man. It seems so
it's very,
simple, but it's one of the hardest things.
it's very difficult to get on dry bar. But if you see someone get on dry bar, or if you see someone with opening up for a big name, or touring with a big name, touring with Chonda Pierce, touring with Michael Jr.,
Right.
being on the same stage with even like a DL Hughley. I mean, they're Christian comedians. I think there's a Christian comedian that tours with DL Hughley. I think it's Marcus D. Wiley.
Oh,
Marcus
yeah.
D. Wiley is he's an excellent Christian comic. And he doesn't change because he's with DL Hughley.
Right.
He's doing Christian comedy with DL Hughley. But Marcus earned that.
Right.
No, I gotta take that back. It's Al Sadiq, I think. It's not DL Hughley. It's Al Sadiq.
Ali Sadiq.
Yeah, that guy's not a Christian comic. That guy's secular and all those different things, but he lets Marcus tour with him because he's funny.
Right.
And he developed that craft. So comedy beefs should not be happening in Christendom, but it does.
Right. I mean, you got beefs in the church. You got the pastor beefing with the deacons. The first lady with the head deaconess. There's all kind of beefs in the church.
Yeah.
You got the cooks. You got the cooks beefing with the janitors.
Well, I mean, dude, you could not be more correct. It is kind of funny. So I like what you said about the forgiveness thing, though, man. It's like it's something that we all need to take notice of. I want everyone out there to get a quick, small sample size of Damon Cherry, and I'm gonna let you guys get an idea of how funny this man is on stage. This is in Philadelphia, and everybody just check out my main man, Damon Cherry, in action.
Man, I was a 5X back then.
And I knew I was gonna be silly growing up in church, y'all. Because I'm gonna tell y'all right now, I'm about the only brother y'all know that ever got held back in Vacation Bible School.
Hey, that's good stuff right there. That's good stuff right there. And so you lost a lot of weight since then, Damon.
Oh yeah, man. I was that picture right there. I wasn't really a 5X, but I was comfortable in a 5X. It's like now I can wear extra large easily now.
Yeah, you slimmed down quite a bit. I just saw you a couple of weeks ago. You slimmed down quite a bit from that, man. That's really good. What did you do to get the weight off, brother?
Well, I do intermittent fasting during the day. Like I usually I eat from 4 to 8 during the whole day. I drink water, and if I do eat anything during the day, it might be a bag of potato chips because I drive a food truck. I got chips on my truck, so I may eat a bag of chips. That's it. Then from 4 to 8, I smash. After 8, I shut it down. Like I haven't eaten yet. So once we get off here, I'm gonna eat. Man, I might go to McDonald's, then go get a side of Wendy's, then go get another side of Popeyes, and then shut it down at 8 o'clock.
Oh wow, okay. And how long have you been doing that?
Ever since I found out I was a type 2, about 2 years, and plus, the Ozempic helps a little bit too.
Okay.
I'm prescribed Ozempic. I got Ozempic prescription. So, but yeah. And my job, I move around all day on my job, so I'm constantly moving. So yeah.
Man, I love it. Keep up the good work, man. It's something, you get to once you get to a certain age, you can't eat like you were 25 anymore.
Right. My problem was I was a late night eater, man. I would be like cooking steaks and baked potatoes at 12:30 at night. You know what I'm saying? I was bad.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, hey man, again, see, but we could do that stuff when we were 25.
Right.
We could do all that stuff when we were 25. Wouldn't gain anything, but that metabolism starts to quit on you when you get into your 30s.
Right.
And then people don't get the memo, and they just keep living the way they're living, and then all of a sudden, by the time they're 50 plus, they got this huge problem.
Right.
And it's like, yo, how I'm gonna get this weight off? So God bless you, man. You realize, real quick what you needed to do, man. You're doing great. Just keep up the good work.
I actually found out at church that I was a type 2. We had a little medical event at church, and the lady pricked my finger, and I was feeling fine, nothing wrong. I was feeling great, fantastic, like I do every day. She like, you feeling all right? I was like, yeah. She like, you might need to get to the doctor. 'Cause my blood sugar was like 480 something.
Oh wow.
Just from the finger prick, and I was the type of person I would keep a 2 liter beside of the bed. I really didn't drink a lot of water, but just drank 2 liters all night long if I got thirsty. And then this was on a Saturday night. I went to church that Sunday, and we had that event. And she told me that. Luckily, I had a doctor's appointment 4 days later, and that's when they told me I was a type 2. And then I started changing things around a little bit.
Okay. Just a little bit. That stuff is serious, man. I'll tell you right now. I mean, a lot of people end up, having some serious issues with limbs and things of that nature. It's diabetes is vicious, man. So keep doing the right thing, brother.
Yes, sir.
Before we came on, we were talking a little bit about your comedy style. Before COVID, I want to say during COVID, something developed called the cancel culture,
right?
Where you can't say certain things because you might offend the wrong group of people, because everybody's got these groups now in societies. Like, if you offend them, they're going to cancel you.
Right.
And so I don't know if you met Donnie Stopa. He was at the conference, and he did a documentary on the cancel culture. I'm going to play the trailer for you, and then I want to come back and just get your thoughts on it.
Cancel culture. We're talking about censorship in comedy. Do you think that cancel culture exists in comedy?
Basically, in a nutshell.
Definitely feel like, as bizarre as it sounds, like there's a war on jokes right now.
Cancel culture, it's such a misdirected umbrella term. You can't police what is subjective.
Oh, wow! Like, you kind of have to live your life bulletproof now. You just have to.
Greatest night in the history of television.
You can't say an inappropriate joke that doesn't have the right context.
There's always going to be some sliver of cancel culture, of woke, of political correctness.
You're not funny, and this is how you have to do the joke, because I know how funny jokes work. That's not the joke.
I don't believe people get canceled. I believe that they have a shift in their audience.
Put your hands together for Mr. Joe Rogan!
When people say somebody is canceled, I think it just means, oh, we found they did or said something that most people don't like.
I date a lot of bimbos. That's the problem, man.
So what?
So, let's think about that joke in today's culture.
Absolutely, let's do that. I tell you right now, that slap that Will Smith delivered to Chris Rock, that was not a hood slap.
Right.
If that was from the hood, Chris wouldn't have got up.
Right.
So that's number one. So he got a break on that one. Hey, Demond.
Or if it was one of them slaps from the little thing to be on TV where they be practicing slapping. You don't get up from those. You don't get up from those either.
One of those. He wouldn't have gotten up. So Will gave him a break on that one. However, what's your opinion of that and this cancel culture business?
I kind of look at it two ways. Cancel culture, to me, it really, if you notice, it really only happens to people that got a major platform. Like if you're somebody nobody's never heard of you, or then I don't agree with cancel culture. I really don't agree with it totally, but mainly when you see it is with somebody that has a major platform. And as far as cancel culture, and when it comes to jokes with me, it's all about the craft. I feel you can get away with any joke. It's all in how you present it.
Yes.
I got a joke I do about a person doing too much praise in a wheelchair. But actually, that joke is funnier when I got somebody in a wheelchair in the room.
Yeah. But see, here's the thing, Devon, and we talked about this coming up before we went on live, and that is you have to own your joke.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like you can't like half step a joke. So you go out and you kind of like not, if you don't commit to a joke, you're gonna bomb the joke. And you make your whole set's gonna bomb. Maybe.
Right.
So you gotta, number one, you gotta commit to it. And then number two, once you commit to it, you gotta stand on it. Like if people start groaning in the audience, like you did a joke. Dude, I saw you do a joke about the guy that had cancer and had his voice box replaced.
And still,
And he was a minister,
preaching.
he's a pastor, right? And he came out and you know, you put the microphone to your neck and you were talking like the minister was doing the service. Can you do that joke?
Man, let me see. Well, it goes back to how when I usually when I'm on the road doing comedy, I like to visit different churches. And so one Sunday I went to a church, and the pastor he was just getting over throat cancer, but he still was preaching. He still was preaching, and he didn't want to get out the pulpit.
Yeah.
So but he was preaching with that voice box. If you have your Bibles, would you turn to John 3:16 and reads, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son."
Yes.
Let me tell you about my style of comedy, Maurice.
Yes,
I don't feel I did my job as a comedian with my style and how I do my comedy, the way I look at things, the way I observe. If somebody don't come after me at the end of the show saying, "Boy, you going to hell," or "I don't need no help going to hell," or if I don't hear anything like that, I don't feel like I had a good set. I mean, and everybody could be in tears crying, but if I don't hear that from at least 3 or 4 people, I don't feel like I had a good set.
Well, and see, that's what I'm talking about. You're owning your stuff. And as a comedian, that's what you have to do. It's funny to you. It may not be funny to a lot of people. Some people may think it's going too far, but it's funny to you. And if you can stand on it, you will actually end up winning people. Because I when I watched the set, what I thought was really interesting is as you got into the joke, there were some groans in the audience, like, oh my goodness.
When I hear that, that's when I kick it in.
And you didn't miss a beat, and you stood on it. And what I found really interesting, Damon, about it is that people that were groaning are now laughing.
Right.
Now people that feel guilty about the joke are doing what they feel naturally, and they're laughing because it was funny. Okay, and so and I think I would use that as a training video for young comedians that are trying to figure out how to move on stage. It's like you can't make everybody happy. I mean, you just can't. If you go to a comedy club, why in the world you walk through the door? To laugh.
To laugh, right.
You know what I mean? So you gotta like kind of decipher, okay, between what's totally unacceptable, which is going to the gutter and using a bunch of expletives and, you know, just kind of being out of pocket. That's another thing.
Right.
But this is something where you're just making a joke about what you thought was funny, something you saw in church.
Right.
And you back off. And Damon, and you didn't back off. That's hilarious.
Well, like I tell everybody all the time, man, I consider myself to be the edgy Christian. I'm gonna take you to the edge, but I ain't gonna push you over.
And that's the key. You did not push him over, because I think the fact that it was funny to you made people kind of like accept you. Like, you know what? It ain't that bad, and it is funny. Let me just stop lying to myself. That's just funny. And people they rocked with you.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So that's what as comedians just have to learn. And as I say that, I just want to ask you if you've ever had a situation where I guess you kind of answered the question already, but do you ever have to deal with pushback for your comedy style? And if you do, how do you handle it?
Actually, to be honest, I've never ran into that, but Unless I was booed or something. But I haven't been booed in so long. Not not to be braggadocious or nothing, but I really, like I said, if somebody don't come up to me and say something like, or some type of like, oh boy, you ain't right. If I don't hear that, I don't feel like I did a good set. But when I hear that, I know I did a good set.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So that's
I've never ran into any pushback as far as the joke. Like I said, as far as when I do the joke about the wheelchair, it's usually the funniest when I got at least a couple people in the wheelchair in the room. And they'll roll up to me and be like, man, that was funny. You wrong though, but that was funny.
Well, again, it's just a joke. So
Right.
that's why as God says in Proverbs, laughter is like a medicine. So when you walk through the doors, understand that everything that comedian does up there, they're just jokes.
Right.
Right. That's why you came to the show.
Right.
And if you can just kind of all right, let me get rid of my personal stuff and go in here and have a good time.
And I think the key to everything that you're saying is knowing the room before you go in. Like some comedians just hang out in the green room, then come out on the stage and don't know who's in the crowd. I like to stand at the door and watch folks come in. Then that way, and I'm telling you, and I learned that from you know Cornbread, Kenny Cornbread Robinson.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I kind of learned that from him at the conference because we did I said one of the conferences maybe about 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
And I sat there and watched Cornbread standing at the front of the door. I'm just sitting there watching. As a good comedian is going to observe everything.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there watching Cornbread at the door, and he literally just talking to folks, getting their names, handing out his business card to everybody. But when he went and did that show, and I mean I think it was in Chicago. This church had to hold about maybe 1,000 people, maybe we had about 300 or 400 people in the crowd, just like the show the other night.
Yeah.
And when I tell you this man did this whole set and was recalling people's names and like he would do the joke and like, and then let me tell you, Brenda, man, I thought that was the most. And ever since then, I've always learned to check out my crowd before I go in.
Okay, and just kind of hobnob with them a little bit before you perform. Yeah, yeah, and that's a good style because then you kind of have an intimate relationship with the audience. Right. And Kenny's really good at that. Kenny can recall all kind of information, but yeah.
Dude, when I tell you he recalled over at least 30, 40 people's names through his whole set. I was like, man, it was amazing to me. I would never in my life forget that. And I learned something from that. Especially like when you're doing comedy contests or anything like that, for anybody that's coming up and you do a contest, it's always great to like just catch some people come through the door, get them on your side before you even start that contest.
Very smart. Very smart. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with comedian Damon Cherry on vibrating.fm and kchftv.org out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Damon and I met at the Uncompromised Conference in McDonough, Georgia, a couple of weeks ago, which was headed by David Pendleton and Roxanne David. Let me ask you this, Damon. Are you comfortable performing in front of any demographic?
Oh, actually, that's what I do. I do. I still work clubs and conventions and everything. But like I said, by the end of the night, you're gonna know my God and who I serve by at some point of the show. Like I said, I don't do the absurdity, the nasty, kinky stuff like I used to do. I've definitely outgrown that. But I still do clubs, and like I said, that's one of them situations you gotta know the crowds. Because sometimes you gotta know when folks don't want to hear all that Christian stuff. And you gotta be able to, go into something that's relatable to everybody else. Because I've done shows where it was an actual gospel clean show, but when you get there, they didn't want to hear them type of jokes. So,
oh, is that right?
Yeah, I ran it a few times.
Okay.
And these were shows that was put on by the church, so I got to go into my, I got to go into my good clean material. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Okay.
I ran it a few times. I wonder how many other comedians that ran into that too. I ran into it a few times. They did not want to hear no church jokes, and it was a church event.
So are you saying they didn't want to hear it because they were offended by church jokes, or they just didn't want to hear it?
Nah, I noticed when I did certain other kind of jokes. I mean, I got laughs whenever I did my church jokes. So I don't know if there was one of those churches that might have took the fact that you're talking about church, even though you're not talking about church, and You got some pastors that's progressive and some that's not progressive. So they have events where they say they want that, but then when you bring it to them, it's like a whole different.
Yeah, I well, see, that's the hard part about Christian comedy, and it actually it leads me to my next question, where I would love to know your opinion of: do you feel there's a difference between clean comedy, family-friendly comedy, and what we call church or Christian comedy?
But that was that's always one of the biggest topics at all of the conferences that we ever do. Like me personally, I don't give myself no label. I'm just a comedian.
Okay.
So I like I said, I can do corporate events. I just recently did one for the zoo here in Columbus. So I can do any type of event. So and Griff, working with Griff, he said something before that kind of made sense to me too. Cause he was like, the reason why he doesn't consider himself a Christian comedian, because he don't want to mess up his Catholicism money. He don't want to mess up his Methodist money.
Right.
And that kind of makes sense. So you want to be able to go wherever that could be profitable for you, if it is profit, a profit to be made, or you want to be able to walk into any room. So I like to pride myself that I can walk into any room.
So I think the church, I guess the reason I'm asking that is because I think the church is a little uptight when it comes to comedy. Now, if you go in there and you tell quote unquote church jokes, they're not going to laugh because they think, okay, you're going too far. You did a joke about speaking in tongues, when you said the pastor said, turn to your right, and turn to your left. And then the woman's breath was so bad. You said, oh, halitosis and bubble gum, that kind. Hilarious, right? But then you get some people that's like, I don't know about all that. I mean, so does that become like an issue?
Actually, that was that same joke is actually I was the entertainment for a Pentecostal conference.
Okay.
And when I tell you, if they could have booed me, they would have booed me. But they showed me that Pentecostal Christian love, and it was another one of the events. They wanted a Christian comedian, but when I come with all that, it's like they didn't want to hear it. So I don't know. I still to this day, I don't know if I was offensive. I left the building. It was one of those shows where I left as a comedian. I just did my thing and I left the building.
Okay. And see, that's where I think church comedy becomes difficult sometimes, because I know I can do a family-friendly room and I can do a clean room, but if I do a church, and I've learned through the years, Devon, that okay, I'm just going to underhand pitch through this whole night. I'm not even going to try to see if they'll take certain jokes. I just leave those out.
Right.
But I had to learn the hard way. Because they'll turn on you, dude. I mean, it's like they just go, throw away the key.
Right.
And so you got to figure, okay, let me, figure out how I'm going to get around that. But that's the challenge. I find church crowds very particular. Like if I tell that joke there and they go, but if they're in another environment, they laugh their head off.
Right.
Like they're not in church now. We're at another facility or what have you, in another setting, they will laugh, but they're not going to laugh at that joke in church. So I didn't know if you had encountered that or not. And I'll be honest with you, Damon, I've made some mistakes that, I paid for. Like I shouldn't have told the joke there.
Right.
It's like, come on, man, what are you doing? But I think the long and the short of it is family friendly, clean. You can sell those jokes, no problem, especially if you're just doing a clean show.
Right.
This is just going to be clean. But in the church comedies, I really said that because you had a lot of church jokes, dude. They were great. I love the fact that you stuck with it, because there were some of the jokes that you told that people didn't really want to go with you on. You didn't care. You stood on it. You just kept rolling. And then they just went with you. They were like, you know what? Forget it. This is funny. And that's a great, again, I would use that set that you did as a training video for young comedians.
Never thought about that.
It's a straight up training video for young comedians, particularly those in the Christian world. Whereas it's like, hey, yo, if you think that joke is funny, you got to own it. And
Right.
you can sell it if you own the thing. And that's
Right.
what you did in that set. I ain't gonna lie to you. It was hilarious. The
Thank you,
guy
sir.
in the wheelchair, the guy, the speaking in tongues, okay, the guy with the voice box. I mean, that was right down Church Main Street.
Right.
And
you want to know what's funny about the voice box joke?
yeah.
That was the first night I did that joke on that show.
Oh wow. Wow. Well, listen, it was awesome, dude. It was awesome. And as I say all of that, because I'm really interested in your maturation progress as a comedian, out of everything you've seen on that stage, Damon, and have experienced, good, bad, and ugly, what is the biggest thing about comedy that you have learned, whether you've been talking with other comedians, whether you experienced it on stage, whether you watched something happen with another comedian, what conversation with another comedian? What is it that you have learned through any of those possibilities that's made you better as a stand-up comedian?
One, I would say I don't really get nervous no more. It's more of an anxiety type thing. So if a comedian is telling you that they're not nervous, 9 times out of 10 they're gonna bomb. If you ever, I don't know how many times you've seen a comedian is like on the side of the stage before they go in, they're like, oh man, I'm about to go out here and kill it.
Yeah,
They usually bomb.
Okay, I love it. I love it.
And then like I said, over these, like I said, October will be 30 years I've been doing comedy, and for about 20 years I used to do my show with my ears because I can never see the crowd. I didn't really get funny so I can look at people in their face and tell them their joke. And it took me a long time. No matter how big the crowd was, no matter how small it was. Now I can bring you into me. When I learned how to do that, that's when I really get funny. It took me about 20 years to do that. Even though I was funny all the time, I can look at you right in your face. People like, man, you was looking right at me, but I didn't see you. Now I can see you.
Okay.
I can see that. I can see that whole stage now. I can see everything. I can see the people in the back. I can see the ushers coming, letting people in. I can see it. I used to couldn't see all that. And that made me a better comedian when I was open up where I can see what's going on in this room now.
So now what caused you to do it? So obviously the reason you couldn't see them before is because you weren't trying to see them.
I think there's more as a young comedian, there's more being focused on the words of the joke. Because if you listen to a lot of comedians today, like I can tell a comedian, I'm like, man, you need to get off that paper, man. That joke is not going to be funny until you get off the paper. You know the joke, but I can literally tell. I can see it in your head. You reading it off paper. Yeah. And once you be able to get off that paper and can add and look at the crowd and you throw stuff into it, and that comes. I think that comes more with hosting.
Okay.
Because even though I'm a good comedian, I think I'm a better host.
Okay.
Because when I'm hosting, I'm free. Any joke I want to do, I can just walk into it. I can see somebody over there stumbling, and then I got a joke. Or I can see somebody that's having a conversation with somebody, and then I can do my talking in tongues jokes, whereas instead of going into the joke, I just walk into it from what I see what's going on into the room. And so
there's no doubt about it, and it makes a big difference because now you can feed off of the facial expressions of the audience and having the eye contact. Like, okay, I'm talking to you, and that person's reaction is going to give you energy.
Right.
And it's telling you whether or not it's funny or what have you. But I like that. That makes a big difference. You have to have you got to get off the page.
Right.
You got to get off that page so you can have freedom with your material. You got to have command of your material. If you're saying it in your head, you got no, and it can still be funny, but it's not going to be nearly as funny if you just kind of freelance the thing. I already know the joke. Like you said, I already know the joke. Just go have fun with it.
Right. Exactly.
And that's really the key. I love that you mentioned that because, but again, it takes a while. You said it took you how long?
It took me almost 20 some years before I can be able to look at somebody in their face like I'm looking at you through this camera right now.
Yeah.
And be able to tell that joke.
So as we talk about that, it leads me to another question that I find interesting, because now we have all these internet comedians, comedians that go viral on social media and all this stuff, millions of views, yada yada yada. What is your opinion of internet comedians versus someone that's been doing it only on stage for years and years and years?
I really have no opinion on it, because I'm one of those people that I try to stay over the times. As the times move, I move.
Got it.
So when the internet, I was struggling in college, but when the internet came up in 1998 and was popular, I was able to get some of them papers off the internet. I graduated. So
yeah.
So,
well, a lot of comedians, well, yeah, I think the numbers have gone down, but when it first started happening, it was offensive to comedians.
Yeah, because they had put their time in, and I think once a lot of the older comedians start having conversations with these younger comedians, and the younger comedians start putting them on their shows and start putting money in their pocket, I think that's when the whole diaphragm changed. So
because I don't hear as many complaints about it now. I think the drawback is when you get a comedian like that and then you put them on stage. At least it used to be like this. It's gone down a little bit. They weren't funny at all.
Right.
They didn't know how to work a comedy club.
Right.
They just got 5 million views or however many, and so they make them the headliner. They don't know, and they don't know how to handle that spot. And then the guy that's actually the headliner is your opener, or what I'm saying, or he's going to be the feature or whatever. But now it's changed a little bit. Now there's one young man that went viral who was at the conference, who's very funny on stage, and that's Christian McCartney.
Oh yeah.
He's like legit.
Right.
I mean, he went, I don't know how many views he had. I know he's like a viral comedian on social media. But he could, and I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong about this. That young man is going to be a household name. What do you think about Christian?
Over time, he's still, just like anybody, still need that stage time. He's very funny, and he can sell any joke with them faces.
He can.
I don't care what joke he do. If he put a face to it, it's gonna be hilarious. But it's just like anything, just time. Stage time is everything in comedy. So just like I can tell when the comic get on stage. I mean, he ain't no stage time. He ain't been on stage in a minute. You can just tell. But just, as long as he stays on the stage and keep doing his thing, oh yeah. I mean, as far as the numbers here, he got the numbers. He got the numbers every comedian wants.
Well, I can tell you right now, Damon, I've been doing comedy for about 13 or 14 years, and I did a film. I wrote and directed a short film last summer, and I got a nomination at the International Music Festival. Yeah, I got nominated in the short film category, and out of that, and out of that, I'm gonna shoot the full length version this year. And then another short film in Texas, thus the cowboy hat. And I could tell. So what I'm saying to you is that I haven't had a lot of time to do stand up because I've been doing these films.
Right.
And you get off rhythm, so you want to get back into your zone before you get back on stage. That's why I didn't perform at the conference. Because I'm completely out of rhythm. The stage is a place where, I don't know about you, Damon, but I'm like, if I'm going to get up there, I'm going to know what I'm doing. I'm going to be ready to rock.
Right.
And that's how you have to look at comedy. It's something you have to. It's all about reps. How many times and how consistently you're getting up there and working on your game and working on your game and working on your game. It's a lifetime kind of thing, and you just got to stay in that zone.
Right.
But that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with Damon Cherry, comedian on the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on bogradio.fm. Damon, do you still do open mics?
Very rarely. Sometimes if I do a show and it's a small crowd, I turn that into an open mic. Like if you had came to the show with me, I did a show with Gordon on Saturday, the night before the conference.
Okay.
If you had came to that show, it's some. That was my third time doing it. Something I've been working on is I have my set list, but I give it to the crowd, and I let the
Okay.
crowd call out the joke. That's
Oh,
how I've
wow.
been.
Is that right? I like that. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, so it was about 30 people in the little coffee house, and I had like 24 jokes on a piece of paper. I just let them pass. I just passed it around, and whatever joke y'all yell out. But I do that for two reasons.
Okay.
One, just quick recall of a joke, even if it was a new one, because sometimes most of them, a lot of them they called out was new, so I just treat it like an open mic. But it also helps making transitions better from joke to joke. Because you might start over here and then somebody just read out something that's totally different from where you was at. Where if you was in your set, you got it lined up how you gonna roll.
Right.
I might be talking about Smurfs and then they read out a joke and now I'm talking about snorks. But how I transition into it, the transition into it is how I've been working like that. That's really how I use that format.
Okay.
And I had another comedian tell me, he's like, man, I would have never in my life thought about doing that. But
no, I like that. That's a really cool way to kind of, I guess, practice or, exercise your comedy, chops. Really, I love it, man. It's a great way to train.
Right.
So look,
anytime I'm around a small crowd, to me, that's what I turn it. I'll do my set, but I turn it into open mic.
So, Damon, how long have you been doing Christian comedy, and were you a secular comedian before you became a Christian comedian?
Oh yeah, I was when I first started doing comedy. The first time I ever got on stage, I was smoking weed and was high as I don't know what.
Yes, sir.
So that was back then. But well, let me give you a little bit of my background. I got an uncle that was a comedian.
Okay.
He used to work Vegas. His name was Ty Wilson. He used to tour with Marla Gibbs.
Okay.
And Just June. I don't know if you remember Just June, the lady from Coming to America that held a cigarette lighter up in her hand.
I think I do. Yes.
Yeah, my uncle actually used to tour with him. There was two of his comedians he used to roll with about him when he lived out in Vegas when I was young. And I told him when I get older, I said, man, I'm gonna be a comedian just like you.
Yeah.
So I started doing comedy while I was at Kentucky State University. I got in a homecoming talent show. Like I said, then was definitely my weed smoking days. I was smoking and said, man, I'm gonna try comedy.
Yeah.
So I did, and I ended up getting third place, and I've been doing comedy ever since. Now, when I moved to Indianapolis, where my uncle lived, that's when he started training me because he was a pastor.
Okay.
So that's when. So one night I'm just doing comedy. I'm going up to the comedy club. So one day he said, "Man, I got this event in my church. You think you can tell jokes in my church?" I was like, oh yeah, your first time, oh yeah. But this goes back to what you were saying earlier.
Okay.
I learned earlier how to peep my crowd. I really didn't have no church jokes, but I had some jokes. So what I did, I took all my old jokes and I turned them into testimonies.
Okay.
So I did my same weed smoking jokes because everybody in the crowd smoked weed. I mean, or they did it at one point in their life. So once I did it as a testimony, I was like, okay. So then I learned. But then when I moved to Columbus, there's a lady here named Nicole Carter. She does she got a Christian room. It's called Extreme Gospel Comedy. She used to do a Monday night show at the Funny Bone up here. She did that for years. And so I started rolling with her, and that's when I developed my church set. That's when I started. Okay, if I'm gonna do these churches, and like I tell a lot of comedians that I do shows with, they be like, man, they didn't laugh at me. I was like, but you're in the church. You didn't mention church once. I ain't saying you got to do your whole set as a church set. Clean, keep it clean. But you're in the church, you have to at least acknowledge the Lord some kind of way. At least two jokes. At least two jokes about church.
Yes.
And then yeah, man, it's how I got started. But I would say I've been doing churches for about maybe about 15, 16 years now.
So what is your testimony, your real testimony?
That's funny that you asked that because me and my wife were just talking about that. It's like to be a testimony, I really don't have. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe that's something I need to ask God about. I mean, I'm just one of those people. To be 52 years old, I've done a lot in my 52 years.
Okay.
I've experienced a lot. I've seen a lot, but I'm just a different type of person. Like I grieve different from most people.
Okay.
I'm just a totally different. But as far as my testimony, that's a good question. It's something I've always told a few people, even a few people at church, they're like, I really don't know what I could testify about, but always about the goodness of the Lord. But as far as me,
So for you, you're just one of those people. It sounds like to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Damon, but it sounds like you're just one of those people that simply acknowledges that Jesus Christ died for you and saved you, and you're good with that.
but of course, I want to be a better Christian, walk a little bit, or walk way better. But I'm just like I said, I grieved it, and my wife even said that to me. Like it's like anybody's been close. My mama died. I cried one good cry to her. I cried so much that I almost dehydrated myself. But
Wow.
I knew that I got to get up off this floor. And when I got up off that floor, that's when I had the courage to go. Now I got to go to the funeral home. I got to do all this. I got to do all that. If I just lay on the floor and waddle, all that don't happen. Because if I don't do it, it wasn't gonna happen.
Damon, you're preaching to the choir. I just lost my mom a few months ago. And I had one good cry, brother. And I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, I mean, from my gut, and you realize, because she was in hospice and I knew that I wasn't going to ever talk to her again because of the situation. When I realized that, I like I said, I had one good cry, man. And then I got it out of me is what I'm saying. And I was able to go and deal with what I had to deal with. And the funeral, she passed away a few days after that. My brother and I had to do the funeral arrangements. We're still closing out our estate and trying to figure out how we're going to do things. But my point is, and I'm with you, you got to straighten up and you got to go do what you got to do.
Right.
But you got to get it out of your system. And that's what I was able to do. And it sounds like that's what you were able to do. And a lot of people handle grief differently. Everybody's got a different way of handling grief. There's no right way to handle grief. You just got to handle it.
Right. And I recently just had this happen again because I've been doing the World Series of Comedy for the last 2 years. So the World Series of Comedy is a national competition. They start out with 500 comedians, and 101 comedians get to make it to Vegas. And they have a similar thing. They have a competition out in Vegas. Then you get to have an industry night where you get to perform in front of all like 50 bookers, all the cruise lines, and everything.
Oh wow. Okay.
So last year I made it to the 101. I was one of the 101.
Wow.
I got that Wednesday before I left to go to Vegas. I'm originally from Hopkinsville, Kentucky, which is about 5.5 hours from Columbus, where I live at.
Okay.
So when I got the news that my little sister was in the hospital, so I drove all the way to Columbus. I drove all the way from Columbus in the middle of the night.
Okay.
Called off work the next day and went to find out what's going on with my sister. I'm going to Vegas in 3 days now. I'm going to Vegas in 3 days. So she was out in a coma, but her dad and all that was down there. She was in like a medically induced coma and all that for what was going on with her. So I drove back. I said, babe, I'm gonna go to Vegas and I'm come back there and stay for a while. So I get to Vegas on Saturday. Sunday, this is September last year. So on Sunday I get the call from her dad that the doctor said, we need to put her on a respirator and maybe possibly take her off within the next by the next day or whatever. It really wasn't too much they can do. So from Vegas, we put her on the respirator. The next day, Sunday, they took her off the respirator. She died within 5 minutes of coming off the respirator. So I ended up leaving. My entry night was Wednesday. Like I said, I got there on Sunday. I left Vegas on Monday, and for about 3 weeks, I was mad at God, man.
Yeah.
I'm like God. I've been doing comedy all this time. Now I got this opportunity to come out here and perform to maybe get that shot that I've been looking for my whole time. And but that night, like I said, I had one good cry. I got out by that hotel, changed all my booking flight, went back to Kentucky. Because if I don't do it, my little sister's gonna get put in the ground. So I went and took care of all that, and then I got back in the World Series of Comedy this year. So hopefully I'm on my way to the 101 again this year. And I think the lesson from there was, God was telling me that, yeah, I brought you here, but I really don't think you was ready for this right now, like you think you were.
Amen to that, brother.
Because
perspective.
I just got married. This will be my second year getting married, so this opportunity you've been wanting, and I've seen a lot of comedians that was married and they get on the road and then their relationship relationships go down and go all kind of ways. They mess up relationships with the kids. I've seen that happen to a few comedians here in Columbus. They got that shot. And so maybe that's what God, I'm thinking. Maybe that's what God was telling me. That's what I got out of it. And so we're gonna try it again this year. But yeah, I was literally, like I said, when it comes to agreement, I'm just totally different, man. I just get that one good ball out. Like, okay, now I gotta fly out. I gotta go put my sister in the ground because if I don't, she's not gonna. I don't know who's gonna do it. So
Well, you know what? I think that's exactly why God kept you from that. I don't know why. I'm just saying that what agreeing with what you said about comedians being overwhelmed by the environment. I can think of two right now that started out as Christian comedians that have been swallowed up by the secular world. Like they completely turned their back on why they were up there, and they're doing it the way the world wants them to do it now. And you just kind of like, whoa. Anyway, I'm gonna leave that alone because we got to get out of here, Damon. This has been a great combo. I could talk to you for another hour easy, but we got to get out, ladies and gentlemen. We've been talking with comedian Damon Cherry on the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on bogradio.fm, cowboy hat style. And if you're coming in at the end and you're like, oh, man, I missed it. Not really, because you can catch it on Spotify this evening, where all major podcasts are heard. And also on Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. on Bog Radio, you can hear this interview in its entirety. So you have not missed at all. And then also every Sunday night at 9 on kchftv.org, 9 p.m. Mountain, you can also hear the Maurice Brown Comedy Show and comedian Damon Cherry. So with that, we're going to step on out of here. Damon, hang on. Once we end the show, hang around. I want to talk to you a little bit.
Okay.
Damon Cherry on the Maurice Brown Comedy Show. And real quick, where can our audience, real quick, Damon, catch you on stage next?
We got the All Greek Juneteenth festival going on in Tampa, Florida. Comedian Tanja D, who's at the festival, she'll be there, and she's representing AKAs. I'll be representing the members of Phi Beta Sigma. We got all the Greeks going to be in the building. It's going to be a great comedy show that's put on by my man Arthur Too Smooth, Tampa Bay, and then we got a few local shows here in Cincinnati, Dayton, and around the Columbus area coming up after that.
I love it. Everybody, Damon Cherry, check him out at damoncherry.com if you want to get more information. Very funny, man. Very, very funny. Worth coming out. Check his set out. He's hilarious. Damon, thank you once again, and may the peace of Christ be with you and your family. God bless you.
Thank you, man. Nice meeting you. And